Have you ever been in a relationship where the more you loved, the more drained you became? A relationship where you were always the one apologizing, even when you did nothing wrong? If you're watching this video, chances are you've either walked through that darkness or you're still trapped in it. And I want you to know, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're simply enduring something that science calls emotional manipulation and society calls narcissism. In today's video, we're going to peel back every layer of the mask a narcissist wears to hide the emptiness inside. We'll break down why your silence shatters them and why leaving isn't just an act of bravery, it's a direct strike at the illusion they've built. This isn't theory. This is the lived reality of millions who've loved the wrong person and are now trying to reclaim their lives. If you've ever asked yourself, was I wrong to walk away? Stay until the end of the video. Because maybe, just maybe, today is the day you finally find your answer. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that helps you understand narcissistic abuse and take back your power one step at a time. Have you ever loved someone who at first made you feel like the most special person in the world? They listened to you, praised you, cradled your old wounds as if they were born to heal them. But then suddenly everything changed. The sweet words faded. Their care became conditional. You began to doubt your own emotions. And the most heartbreaking part, you felt yourself slowly disappearing bit by bit. A narcissist doesn't come to love. They come to possess. They study your past wounds carefully and exploit them as tools to trap you in an invisible cage. Once they believe you've become dependent, they start pulling away, becoming cold, demeaning you until you believe you can't live without them. They want you to feel small so they can appear grand in your eyes. And this is the tragedy so many face. You don't stay because you're blind. You stay because you love with the heart of a kind, compassionate soul. But true love never requires you to sacrifice your worth just to be kept around. And when you finally realize that when you decide to let go without arguing, without explaining, they panic. Because that silence is no longer a void. It's a declaration, I no longer need you to survive. The paradox is this: when you loved them unconditionally, they took it for granted. But the moment you start loving yourself, when you walk away in silence, that becomes the greatest shock of their lives. No one left to provoke. No one left to blame. No audience to play the victim for. The mask falls off, and they're forced to confront the emptiness within the very thing they always tried to fill with you. Many people ask, what should I say to make them regret it? What should I do to make them see my worth? And the answer is, you don't have to say anything at all. Your silence, your withdrawal, your refusal to engage, that is the clearest answer. It's not weakness. It's a quiet kind of power, a kind narcissists will never understand. Do you know what makes a narcissist collapse faster than any confrontation? It's not shouting. It's not accusations. It's your absence. When you go silent, you step off the chessboard. They always thought you'd keep playing on. No more texts explaining yourself. No more tears for them to weaponize. You've walked away not because you stopped loving, but because you finally loved yourself more. And that is something they cannot accept. When you're no longer there to witness their performance, the victim, the misunderstood, even the so-called hero, they lose their stage. Without an audience, the act crumbles. A narcissist cannot survive in the raw reality where they are neither admired nor feared. And when you disappear, you leave behind a void they cannot control. Do you know what they'll do next? They'll try to come back. Not because they miss you in the way normal people do, but because you were once their emotional supply, the place they could drain admiration, guilt, or even your anger to feed their distorted sense of self. Your absence isn't just a loss. It's a reminder that they are not as powerful as they believed. They may act cold. They may even look smug when you leave. But when night falls and there's no one left to manipulate, when the walls of illusion begin to crack, they're forced to face the one thing they fear most themselves. Without you reacting, they're left alone with the echo of their own emptiness. They will panic. They will rage. They may switch tactics, smearing your name, slandering you, or rushing to replace you with a new supply. But don't let that make you doubt yourself, because every one of those actions is simply the scream of a crumbling soul that's lost its control. The more silent you are, the louder they scream inside. The calmer you are, the more chaotic they become. The better you live, the smaller they feel. And perhaps the most powerful truth is this: they know it. They know you're doing something they could never do, walking away in silence without drama, without hatred. You left them alone with themselves, and that's what they've spent a lifetime running from. You see, a narcissist isn't just hurt because you left. What wounds them far deeper is how you left. No theatrics, no rage, no clinging. You walked away as if they never existed, and that is their greatest fear. In the narcissist's world, your presence isn't just emotional, it's validation of their power. Every time you cried, begged, or tried to explain, they saw it as a win. You were still orbiting their emotional axis with them at the center. But when you no longer react, no longer hate, no longer need them, they're forced to face the truth. They've lost control over you. And that's when the identity crisis begins. A narcissist doesn't truly know who they are. They live by borrowing reflections, images, emotions, and attention from others to construct a false sense of self. When you walk away, it's not just a person they're losing, it's the cracked mirror they used to survive, now shattered. They feel empty, directionless, and invisible in their own life. They might rush to find someone new, post happy photos, declare that they've never been better. But don't be fooled. That's not joy. It's desperation disguised as a smile. They're trying to prove to you and to themselves that they didn't lose. But you don't need to prove anything, because those who've truly won don't need to scream that they're right. All you need to do is keep walking. Reclaim the pieces of yourself you had to give up. Relearn how to trust your own voice. Love yourself, not selfishly, but gratefully and rightfully. Because every day you don't text them is a day you're healing. Every time you resist checking their social media is a step away from their manipulation. Every moment you live for yourself is a quiet, unwavering declaration. I've escaped that hell. Rebirth from the ashes. The journey of reclaiming identity after narcissistic abuse. When you leave a narcissist, you're not just ending a relationship, you're severing ties with a distorted belief system, a chain of manipulations disguised as love, and a reality where you were always the one to sacrifice. That departure isn't a conclusion, it's a rebirth. But every rebirth begins in confusion. You look around and no longer recognize yourself. The hobbies you once loved now feel distant. Every decision you made had to be approved through their gaze. You're confused by your own emotions, unsure if you're just overreacting like they whispered into your ear 1,000 times. This is the psychological aftermath of gaslighting, a wound you cannot see, but one that runs deep into the roots of your emotions. You are not crazy, you've just been set free. And with freedom always comes fear. In the early days after leaving, you might miss them. Not because they deserve it, but because the emotional dependency was carefully, methodically built. A narcissist doesn't just make you love them. They make you believe no one else could love you the way they did. They implant in you a quiet, poisonous doubt that you're too complicated, too sensitive, too broken for anyone else to accept. And that's why you stayed. But now you've left. And that is the bravest thing you've ever done. The true nature of silence. Have you ever wondered, why does your silence drive them mad? Because in silence there's no stage, no audience, no dialogue to control, no emotions to manipulate. You're no longer reacting, no longer crying, no longer pleading, and that makes them feel invisible. To a narcissist, being ignored is like being erased from the map of existence. There's nothing left to dominate, no one left to perform for, and they begin to flail like someone drowning in the very illusion of grandeur they built for themselves. Silence is a language a narcissist can't read. It confuses them, disorients them, and strips them of control. That's why you don't owe them a reply. You don't have to explain why you left. Because if they truly respected you, you wouldn't have had to leave in silence in the first place. The post-breakup temptations, the trap called hoovering. After a period of silence, familiar signs may start to reappear. A text just to check in. A vague post that hints at old memories. A subtle indirect apology. But this is not real remorse. It's hoovering, a manipulation tactic named after the vacuum cleaner. They're trying to suck you back into the zone of control, the emotional quicksand where you once lost yourself and became paralyzed by confusion. Don't fall for it. If you go back, they might be sweet for a few days, maybe even weeks. But then the cycle will begin again. And this time they'll break you deeper. Because now they know you've left once, and they'll do whatever it takes to ensure you never leave again. The cost of returning will be your self-respect, your self-forgiveness, and your trust in your own truth. Remember this: never go back to someone you had to leave just to survive. After the storm, rebuilding yourself from the shattered pieces. There's a bitter truth few want to admit. Leaving a narcissist isn't the moment you're finally free. It's only the starting line of your healing journey. You've lived far too long in a reality where your emotions were dismissed. Your voice was minimized, and your identity distorted to the point that you barely recognized yourself. You once allowed someone else to define your worth, and now that they're gone, you must relearn how to define it for yourself. And that's not an easy task. In the early stages, you'll face conflicting emotions, anger, emptiness, regret, longing, and sometimes doubt in your own decision. You'll ask yourself, was I too harsh, or were they really that bad? These questions aren't wrong. They're a natural part of recovering from a relationship built on gaslighting, where truth and lies were replaced with emotional confusion. But you must understand this: just because you miss them doesn't mean you should go back. Just because you feel lonely doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. Healing is not a straight path. It's a winding road, one where you'll rise and stumble again, until one day you begin walking with steady feet. Healing is a journey, not a destination. Some believe that healing is a single moment, a sudden awakening like a flash of light breaking through the night. But in reality, it's a series of quiet, courageous acts. It's waking up and making yourself coffee without checking your phone for their messages. It's laughing, truly laughing with a friend for the first time without talking about the past. It's sitting in a quiet room without fearing the silence. That is healing. And one day, you won't feel that ache in your chest when someone mentions their name. You won't wake up at 2 a.m. wondering, what if I had done things differently? You won't believe you need someone's love to prove that you're worthy. Because you'll know you were always worthy. They will come back, but you won't be there anymore. This much is almost certain: they will come back. Maybe after 3 weeks, 3 months, or even 3 years, but they'll try to return. Not because they've changed, not because they've realized your worth, but because they can't stand the fact that you've lived without needing them. Your silence is the final declaration: I have lived well without you. And that is something they cannot forgive. When they return, it may be with a smile, with apologies, with tears. But remember, everything they once broke inside you cannot be repaired by words. What you need is not their remorse. What you need is faith in yourself, and a vow that you will never again trade pieces of your soul just to hold on to someone. If you're ready, I'll now write the final act, the emotional climax of this journey, a declaration of awakening transformation and the rebirth of your inner freedom. It will be the closing of this 7,000-word odyssey with a powerful message for those still trapped. Listen to yourself and dare to choose freedom. Shall I begin? Freedom isn't about leaving, it's about returning. There's a common misconception that when you leave a narcissist, you lose a relationship. But the truth is, you've found yourself again. You didn't leave something behind. You returned to your true essence, to your real worth, to the person who had been buried beneath layers of false definitions they forced upon you. And now, you no longer need them to feel whole. You've learned how to rise after being pushed down. You've learned how to be silent without feeling weak. You've learned to choose peace instead of trying to prove your worth. And most importantly, you've learned to love yourself not with empty self-love slogans, but with the daily courage of no longer chasing someone who never intended to hold on to you. The narcissist loses and you grow. The narcissist believed they were the center the universe you revolved around. But when you stopped spinning, they realized they never had any gravity. They didn't hold on to you. They held on to a distorted image of you, one they needed to feel powerful. And when that image vanished, they fell into an endless spiral of panic. You, on the other hand, didn't fall. You were freed. You began to see life without the lens of fear or control. You understood that you no longer need love to survive. You only need honesty with your own emotions. And from there, you began to grow. Quietly, steadily, proudly. A final message to the one still hesitating. If you're still there, standing at the crossroads between stay and leave, I won't push you. I just want you to remember this: you deserve a kind of love that never makes you doubt yourself. You don't need someone to make you feel worthy. You just need to know you were never the problem. And if you were ever made to believe you're too much to love, too sensitive or too difficult to deal with, please know that was never the truth. That was manipulation. The truth is, you're not too sensitive. You're not too weak. You're someone who once loved too deeply, with a heart that was never meant to be broken by someone who didn't know how to love. The end. A call to awakening. If you're still here reading these final lines, then maybe, just maybe, you're ready. Ready to stop apologizing for being sensitive. Ready to stop trying to be understood by someone who never wanted to understand. Ready to walk away, not to escape, but to return to yourself. And if you're ready, let this video be your turning point. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave a comment. I choose freedom. Because every word you write might become the light for someone else, still lost in the darkness you once knew. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your existence. And most of all, thank you for not giving up. Awakening in silence and coming home to yourself. You haven't lost. You've only just begun to truly live. If you're still here at the end of this video, that's no coincidence. Maybe you once felt lost in a relationship that seemed full of love but cost you too much. Maybe you lived in doubt, cried in silence, and apologized for feeling your own emotions. Or maybe you're still there in the in-between, in the space between stories, between identity and healing. But today, I want you to remember one thing. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are not wrong. You were simply someone who loved with everything honest and real in you, and gave that love to someone who never knew how to hold it. And that is not your fault. When you walked away in silence, it wasn't an escape. It was a declaration. A declaration that you've seen the truth, that you've awakened, and that you will no longer sacrifice yourself to maintain an illusion called love. They may never admit how deeply they hurt you. They may continue living as if you never existed. But the truth is, they will always remember you as the one who saw them for who they truly were, and still chose to walk away. And you no longer need their recognition, because what you need and what you now have is peace, the clarity of truth, the right to live a life untouched by manipulation, control, or pain-based definitions. If you've ever felt alone on this path, know this: you are not alone. There are millions of people who have stood where you stand and are healing breath by breath. Leave a comment. I am coming home to myself. Subscribe to the channel because we still have so much to explore together. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the topics that help you understand narcissistic abuse, gaslighting, emotional healing, and the journey of awakening. Because you deserve more, not just a love that is good enough, but a love that is true, peaceful, and begins with you.